If this were my last time picking up a pen, turning thoughts to words and words to sound waves, what would I want most to say? Man, what a question. Well, I suppose I'd start with that very notion. The last time, right? The idea that any point could be the last time. The last time you pick up your pen, call a loved one, go on a jog. Like, we just don't know, right? And the word urgency probably isn't the right framing, but I would point to the magic in giving the present, the now, the respect that it deserves. Not treating each moment as though it's merely a bridge to the next moment. I'd emphasize the notion that every breath is the opportunity. I'd probably reference some of the things I've learned recently, not because of recency bias, but because of the fact that it took me so long to get it, that it took me decades to finally understand so many of them. For example, people. People is a big one. It's been a very big theme, right? Having the right people in your life fixes so many other problems. What do I do when respect isn't reciprocated? How do I handle constant misalignment in my life? Where do I grow and enhance my energy when it feels suppressed? Well, if you treat your inner circle the same way security treats a vault at a bank, so many of those questions solve themselves. Spend your time cultivating a circle that lights up your life, not constantly patching up holes left by people who let you down. Let's see, I'd suggest a perspective shift, a very specific perspective shift. See, we look at life through a personal lens. We see the world as we are, and that makes sense. It's logical. But it's important to know that we're often incapable of seeing life through the eyes of others. It's just impossible to feel their pain or understand where they've been. I've come to this recently as, there are just people in my life that I'd swear to you are angels. Like, honest to God, angels walking amongst men. They're so kind and loving, and they're so giving, and they radiate positivity and hope and beauty. They just remind you of the good in life. And so you assume if you were to turn them upside down and shake them, that's all that would come out of their pockets, right? Good stuff. But behind their eyes is often silent struggle and internal battles, a desire to give others love that perhaps they didn't get somewhere along the way. Look, I'm not saying this to be a downer or to turn an objectively good thing into a sob story. I guess I'm just suggesting that you take care of the angels in your life. Sometimes their wings are the heaviest. I'd probably remind you of this. I'd remind you that you can go away for years, and when you came back, things would pick up right as they were. You'd see the messages weren't urgent, the emails didn't matter, the job was one of many, the clothing was stupid, the title didn't mean that much. And I get it, we have to play the game to some extent. I certainly play it. But it helps me to remember this stuff doesn't matter as much as we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking it does. Give me a bonfire, good people, and some reminiscing over a cold drink or two over all that stuff. Right? That's one of the cool things about having moved so many times over the last decade. I've realized that, I'd rather be broke with people I love doing something that excites me in a small mountain town than rich and lonely in Miami. And I don't think I'm unique there. Am I saying stop climbing? No. Absolutely not. Go, push boundaries, dive fully into life. See what this short time on our floating rock can become. Just don't let it consume you. In other words, protect your North Star. What else? Well, I'd probably talk about the things I'm most proud of. And right on top of that list would be the messages over the years from people saying simply, Eddie, thanks. That connected. That meant a lot. Or you helped me look at this situation differently. I have momentum again. That's what it's all about. And I'd ask you, what can you do that you love that leaves this place a little better than you found it? I'm not saying you need to cure cancer or invent a car that time travels, although that would be awesome. I'm saying simply, there is a personal fulfillment that materializes when we seek to become a net positive in the world. Again, hear me, I'm not virtue signaling. This is me shining a spotlight on something that is so easily overlooked. When you think about adding value, when you think about serving, just like I mentioned earlier, you solve so many problems at once. People want to be in your orbit. You make beautiful connections. You feel fulfilled and excited. Value very often translates to financial needs being met and often exceeded. Just generally, you live a life of purpose. If you want to spend your life broken, financially struggling, and alone, simply repeat the mantra, what's in it for me? I'd also think about the seasons of my life. I'd think about running around, partying in college, squeezing every drop out of Friday and Saturday night, saying never again on Sunday, going to work Monday, then counting down the days until Friday. I'd think about the artist in me that pushed me down a road I couldn't have even imagined. I'd think about the times I got too conservative with my ambitions and forgot who I was. I'd think about the times I linked with the wrong people, the times I found myself lost, the times I was on top of the world. I'd see that it all mattered. It was all necessary. In fact, I could easily trace the best of times to the seasons I would have, while in them, deemed the worst of times. It's all one giant roller coaster ride. The pain always becomes a seed planted into the earth, waiting to sprout into something better. The wandering always brings you to some door on the fringes of life that takes you exactly where you needed to be, places you couldn't have planned. I'd suggest that we think of life not as a right or wrong thing, but as a series of valleys and summits. Interchangeable and interconnected like the ocean tides. When you're hurting, when you're down or lost, I'd remind you to keep your head up, to conquer one rock at a time and trust that something new is ahead, because something new is always ahead, as long as you march on. If this were my last time picking up a pen, turning thoughts to words and words to sound waves, I'd encourage you to pick up your pen, to tell your story. For younger you, present you, and older you. For the ones you love, the angels in your life, and even the passers-by you've never met before. I'd encourage you to fight that little bit of resistance in your stomach that wants you to stay small, that says there's no need to go or try or begin. I'd say there's a version of you that can light this place up. I'd say there's a chapter ahead that will leave you breathless. There's a journey around the bend that can become a map for others, a door for the new possible. There's a wilderness in need of the courageous, those willing to point their compasses towards the horizon and explore. If this were my last time picking up a pen, turning thoughts to words and words to sound waves, I'd tell you to lace up your shoes, open the door, and go. What's up, guys? Eddie here. And before we jump into the next chapter, just a quick note. So, as many of you know, every single video that I've ever put on this channel has been created with the intent of building momentum in your life. If you want something physical to anchor that momentum, we've created the brand AGNS, or Always Grateful, Never Satisfied, for that exact reason. Athletic apparel that embodies the very ideas and concepts I talk about every day. Because you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, we've created a code for this exclusive community, YWW20. You can use that on the website, agns.lifestyle, or right under this video on YouTube. All the stuff is there in the shop. Again, code YWW20 gets you 20% off the entire store. It's a great way to support the channel and also elevate your journey. Let it be a reminder to keep showing up. Appreciate your time. Always grateful, never satisfied. On to the next. Sometimes life is exactly what we want it to be. Things feel like they're happening. Momentum seems to open every door. Opportunity waits around each corner with open arms. Man, those times are great. But this is not one of those times. Not at all. What I want to do is explore the moments of in-between. The instances of solitude and quiet. The periods of tension that exist between heartbeats. Because in those silent deserts, we don't just endure. We discover something truly profound. Me? I've spent plenty of time wandering through the deserts of life. I can even make the argument, both literally and metaphorically, that it's where I find myself now. Where the great unknown pleads with you to trust it, whispering confirmation that it will lead you to answers, so long as you lock your eyes on the horizon and keep your feet moving. But just like the sand acts as a blanket covering everything below, the rocks, the plants, the cacti, you are leaving only the shape of who you once were. An outline, a reference point, trading the certainty of what's known for the danger, the uncertainty, the risk of a world undiscovered. See, out here amidst the deserts of life, through the mirage of safety, you discover that the thing you need most, well, it's never complicated. This reminder is both profound and simple. It pulls you in and demands that you remember. That you remember you have everything you need to emerge from this chaos. And should you choose to push through, you will be better for it. Over and over and over again, the deserts of life make me into the man I am supposed to be. Not because they reveal the world to me, but because they reveal me to myself. They remind me of the world within, the internal strength, the resolve. Perhaps not to know, but certainly to move forward when I don't. It is through the deserts of life that you find your oasis. It is the very nothing you wander through now that becomes everything. And so maybe, just maybe, this is the reminder you need. Maybe life feels desolate. Maybe there aren't any answers. Maybe the missing validation invokes fear, and the pressure to return to worlds you left behind grows stronger. Well, let this be life telling you that these aren't skippable moments. That you will, amidst this very trudging through the dunes of nothingness, find yourself again. A deeper, more meaningful, powerful version of yourself. This desert points a mirror back at you for a reason. The adversity is not here to break you. It's here to remind you how strong you've always been. It's here to show you that not only will you endure, but the deserts of life will shape you into the person you were always meant to be. Today, if you're willing, is a call to examine some of those truths and rules that you live by. Those things that you've deemed as fact, maybe completely unintentionally, that are a misrepresentation of truth and, in the grand scheme of things, keeping you from living your best life. Call them what you will: man-made walls, self-induced limitations, however you want to identify it or recognize it. But it's not until you step out and view it again from a higher vantage point that you realize maybe, just maybe, you've been caging yourself this entire time. You've been living a fraction of the life that you're capable of living. Someone sent me a soundbite. Jeremy Boring, who's the CEO of a media company, where he was saying, just generically, be careful who you take advice from. Because, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this, but the idea should come through. He says, I get a lot of financial advice from people who don't have two pennies to rub together. And it's not that they aren't amazing friends with amazing intentions and, I love them, but they don't have what I want. So how would they be able to give advice, right? He says, one thing I heard growing up was, Jeremy, money doesn't grow on trees. And he said, it wasn't until much later that I realized, hell yeah, it does. Wealth is created out of thin air, a lagging indicator to value add. There are infinite ways to generate it. And so to think that there's a finite amount or that it's a time for money transaction, that's a limiting belief. Now ask yourself how many people believe that. And so it made me think a few things, prompted a few different thoughts. First, it's luckily an example of me hearing exactly what I needed to hear, exactly when I needed to hear it. My team and I are behind the scenes looking to pivot and add more value in different ways. And so I'm so stubborn with my approach, I'd rather do nothing than create new products or services or media, for that matter, that aren't aligned with our North Star. I have to be excited about stuff or it's a no from me. And so just recentering the focus around the question of how do you best serve your audience? How do you add more value to the marketplace? It's just great to hear that again. So that's one. And then two, because you know the drill, I had to ask, well, what might some other limitations in my life be? I haven't done this exercise in a while. Where am I building walls around myself? A few things came up. First, perhaps juggling personal relationships and the work that I love. There's room for that to be reimagined. I still think I need to kick the door open creatively. I don't know how or what that looks like, but when just in your soul you feel like there's more, that needs to be unpacked. And then lastly, just the scope of what I'm doing. It's so easy to get comfortable and diminish what can be. And by the way, I don't know anyone who doesn't do this. It's a full-time job. You have to work to continuously push yourself out of your comfort zone, to be bigger, onto better things. And so I have to hand this over to you, this simple question. What are some things that maybe you've accepted as just reality or the way things are? Some things you've deemed to be truth that are holding you back, that you can take a sledgehammer to? Are you willing to take a walk, spend some time alone with yourself, and examine what life could look like with those walls kicked down? Because we wake up and we do the same things and we see the same people and we go to the same places. But there's no mandate that prohibits you from stepping outside of that, from going out into the world and demanding more of it. One of my favorite mantras, the world only gives you what you ask of it. So are you asking it for the right things? Are you asking the right questions? I hope this finds you at the right moment in time, the universal nudge reminding you that you have so much more control of your life than you think you do. Never outsource that or concede to the whims of chance like a leaf blowing in the wind. If it's not ideal, make it ideal. If it's not yours, make it yours. Bring it home, take ownership. The world is meant for you if you choose to make it so. I can't be perfect, but I can be brave enough to begin. I won't always know the way, but I can take the next step anyway. I won't be for everyone, but I can love myself enough that it doesn't shake me. Not every chapter will end the way I anticipated, but I can carry the lesson forward stronger than before. I'll lose people that I love, but I can honor them by living a life they'd be proud of. I will stumble, I'll fall, I will break, but I can rebuild with stronger hands and a wiser heart. I'll be misunderstood, but I can speak my truth anyway. There'll be chapters I'd rather not read aloud, but they're still mine, and I own every word. There will be dreams that drift away, but new ones will rise with the dawn. Not every road will lead to glory, but every step shapes who I become. Not every plan will unfold perfectly, but each detour will reveal exactly what I need. Sometimes the night will feel long, but I can be the spark that brings morning. Sometimes doubt will scream, but I can whisper back, I'm still here. I can't promise forever, but I can give this moment all I have. I cannot control the winds, but I can adjust my sails and carry on. Because life was never about perfection. It's about presence. It's about meaning. It's about dancing even when the song isn't clear. So I will love loudly, fall gracefully. I will rise boldly and choose again and again and again to live fully. And when it's all said and done, when the curtain falls and the lights dim, let them say that I lived with heart, that I didn't run from the storm, that I stood up and attacked its center, that I became the thunder. This is an ode to life. Not because it's easy, not because every step made sense, but because it's mine. Because I chose to keep going when I could have turned back. Because I learned to find meaning even in the cracks and the chaos. Because I dared to show up imperfect, uncertain, but unbreakable. This life with its twists, its turns, its storms, and its stars is mine. Every scar, every triumph, every whisper of hope has culminated into this single moment, this beautiful life. And I won't let it slip away. Are we living or are we slowly dying? It's a question I recently came across and my mind said, hey, the second half of that is objectively true. We are slowly dying every day. Every morning we wake up, we are one day closer to the end of our time here. Our bodies, the air we are renting with every breath we take, all of it signifies how temporary and finite this journey. We are slowly dying. The question worth examining is, are we living? Emerson has a beautiful quote where he says, it's not the length of life, it's the depth of life. Meaning, it's not inconceivable that one could both have a pulse and sleepwalk through their entire existence. You can physically be present and still not totally understand the gift that is in the palm of your hand. And so, this is not a call for anything but for you to notice the choice, to notice what's at stake, to notice the fork in the road. In many ways, what happens out there comes down to those who notice and those who don't, those who see the opportunity and capitalize, and those who know not what they have. Remember, mistakes can be remedied. Most missteps are completely reversible, even the most tragic steps backwards. They're often a step forward as the dust settles and time plays its part. What's impossible to justify, though, is never going. Regret is a dead-end street. It gives you nothing to rectify or adjust or improve. You can't undo not going, not trying, never fighting for what you believed in. So perhaps this is what you need right now, where you are. The reminder to go out and stumble. Fall hard. And in the process, make your mark on the moment. On a world waiting for you to show it what you're capable of. See, because all that falling, day in and day out, when most were sleepwalking through life, it will have made you something they are not. Something they can never be. Unbreakable. Life can't break you. Only you can break you. You can't be both alive and avoiding the limelight. You can't be both in the arena and asleep. So open your eyes and go do what only you can do. Go be unbreakable. Because you've earned it. Unbreakable because you are resilient. Unbreakable because there is no fear of hitting the ground. No fear of the battles to fight or hills to climb. Unbreakable because breaking is quitting. It's stopping. It's refusing to take life in, and that's simply not you. In a world where outcomes are never guaranteed, we have to cling to what we can control. Heart, a willingness to fight, a commitment to live like few out there are willing to. So are you dying? Sure, we all are. But not today. Today is about, as Emerson said, the depth of life. Today is about capturing that fleeting moment. It's about reminding yourself and the world why you're here.